Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about some ammunition developments. Now, over the decades or centuries even, people with a serious interest in the use of firearms have sought ways to increase the efficiency of the bullets, whether it was full metal jacket or round nose lead, to increase the efficiency of their use against a living organism, whether it is for self-protection or for hunting. Now, the military are restricted by the Hague and Geneva Conventions to full metal jacket ammo. So much of this development has been done by the civilian sector and also the law enforcement sector. And none more interested in this than South Africa, who from the 70s to the 90s went through a period of both urban and rural terrorism and mass disorder, and also a terrific rise in crime. Thankfully, since 94, where the new constitution, terrorism has decreased, but crime continues to soar. Rape, burglary, kidnapping, farm attacks, carjacking, and of course murder, making Joburg the de facto murder capital of the world. It's the most dangerous place outside of a war zone by some studies. So self-protection is a key issue. Homes are very heavily protected. There are armed security patrols, private security, the use of dogs, alarms. They have gated communities, and yet still crime continues to rise. During most of that period I'm talking about, South Africa was under a very strict arms embargo. So they developed their own domestic industry to a very, very high standard. The G5 cannon was world class. The Roy Falk attack helicopter was compatible to the Apache. It had the same optics, the specialised sight that the Apache has, and the R5 assault rifle, the Z88 pistol issued to South African police, the Vector pistol, the ADP, which I call the Heckler and Glock, all developed by this highly industrialised and first world economy. Alongside that, there was developments in the ammunition field, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The first ammunition I'll discuss is the Glaser. Now, the Glaser has a copper jacket which contains a massive lead shot, but it's not a shot shell in the conventional sense, which when it's fired disperses the shot as it exits the muzzle. The copper jacket is a capsule which penetrates the target and then releases the payload of shot. And it's a number 12 shot, and there's somewhere in the region 300 of them in a suspension of liquid Teflon. And it's capped with a polymer ball, which gives it the profile of a full metal jacket round, so it feeds very, very well in semi or full automatic weapons. It was developed by a chap called Jack Cannon in the United States, and the original loads were produced by the company Deadeye Associates. In 2002, Corbon, a very highly regarded ammunition manufacturer, purchased the company and has been manufacturing the ammo ever since. So it's still available. What's this? The theory of the Glaser is that dispersal of shot into the target is supposed to produce tremendous wounding capability. Since a sphere has the highest surface area of any object, 300 of these spheres transmit the energy to the surrounding target material in the most optimal way possible. And the idea is you have a projectile which doesn't over-penetrate and has low ricochet potential. The velocity is very high, and that's because the projectiles are so light. In 9mm, they only weigh 80 grains and have a muzzle velocity of about 1,500 feet per second. Now, although invented and developed in the United States, the Glaser was eagerly adopted in South Africa and copied domestically. So in the gun shops over there, you could readily buy Glasers in all the popular calibers, and they were supposed to be every bit as good as the American equivalents or the American originals. And I bought several packs while I was over there on various trips. And they did seem to be well made. I've only heard of one case of Glaser use in South Africa, although there's several cases of them being used in United States. And an intelligence officer shot a terrorist through the side of the neck, and his neck swelled to the size of a football. There was no exit of the shot, and it was instant man down. So the Glaser was an American development. The next ammunition we're going to look at was from Europe. Several years ago, the French government owned an arms company called SFM, created a unique munition specifically for police use, named THV, from the French for Très Haute Vitesse, very high speed. It certainly lives up to the name. The 9mm clocks a true 2,600 feet per second from a 4-inch barrel. It's a very light bullet. It even looks exotic, as you can see, and it looks like it wouldn't feed, but because of the relative angles, it does feed through automatic and semi-automatic actions very, very well. This shape combined with the high velocity gives the THV its enormous trauma potential. The concave ogive acts rather like a lens to focus the shock at 90 degrees to the track of the bullet. There are conflicting theories to the effectiveness of this mechanism, but theories are only interesting to theoreticians. What concerns the end user reality, does it work on the street? Well, those currently using THV are delighted with its performance. The bullet usually stays in the body, so over penetration is not a concern. The figure usually quoted is about 12 inches of tissue, but I know of a case where the bad guy was shot in the base of the throat and the bullet didn't exit. Amazingly though, THV will penetrate body armour. It doesn't exit flesh, but it will blast through level 2 Kevlar. Even more amazingly, it was developed by the French. Just joking. I once demonstrated THV to a bodyguard class. I had a 2A Kevlar panel, and we used to test various ammo on it, and nothing used to get through it. But I put it against an earth bank and shot it with a 9mm THV. Went right through the panel, which is 18 layers of Kevlar, and I wanted to see what the bullet looked like after this, so I dug in the earth and I got up to my shoulder and I never got the bullet back. So it's pretty interesting. It has, on one hand, quite a bit of penetration, on the other hand doesn't usually exit human torso. Operators with a high risk of weapons disarm tend to be wary of THV. We know from statistics that something like 1 in 5 officers shot are shot with their own or a partner's weapon. So having a load that will go through your armour in that weapon may not be the best idea. One option is to carry THV in one of your backup magazines, so you have available the option of using something with its unique qualities, but it's not the immediate load in the weapon. So I was in South Africa in the 80s and doing some contracts over there, and I wandered into a Cape Town gun shop and talked into ammo and so on. I mentioned THV, and the gun shop owner had never heard of it, and I was carrying it in my number 3 magazine. I was carrying, I think it was the P7 then, and I showed it to him, and he was involved in making, I think he was involved in the Glazers. Certainly had good contacts, and he asked if he could buy a round off me to copy. So I said, you can have a couple of rounds with pleasure. I said, but next time I'm over, if you are making them, just give me some freebies. And he was quite happy with that. And then subsequently, when I returned the following year, they were on sale in several calibers, 45 and 357, as well as the 9mm. They were usually available as to reload yourself. So that it became quite a popular round over there. It certainly became very well known over there. I did know some police officers who did carry it as their duty load. So that was THV. So then there's a modified version of THV. As a result of discussions between South African Police, SAP, and the government-owned company, arms company PMP, an upgraded round was produced. The SAP liked the performance of the THV, but because a lot of their weapons were quite old and worn and so on, they did have reliability issues. They were also very seldom cleaned. So Andre van Dijk, a research and development specialist with PMP, came up with the concept of a plastic nose cap over the bullet. The new round was called Monad, from Monsieur and AD for Andre Dyke. Used primarily by the police special task force and the military special ops Specmer. It's quite a rare item. You can see the picture. I did manage to get my hands on a couple of examples of it. When Andre left the PMP, he joined Ivan Mansour, who's the Mon from Monad, in forming New Generation Ammo, NGA. And then they started working on another round, and this had an influence on ammunition from Germany. This munition is called BAT. And many of you may have heard of BAT ammunition, but it wasn't really developed primarily for shooting people. The German police experienced problems shooting animals, and they wanted a round that would reliably shoot a large animal, in a bovine, for example, wandering on the autobahn, or if they had to put down a dog or even a cat. If a cat was hit by a car and it needed humanely killing, they wanted one that wouldn't a round that wouldn't over penetrate. So all this was explained to me at a training conference in Frankfurt by a police captain who's specialised in ammunition. So rather than carry a variety of weapons and ammo, they wanted one particular round. And Gecko, a subsidiary of Dynamite Nobel, produced the BAT, Blitz Action Trauma, fast incapacitation. It's known to the German police as Action Ein. The bullet copper with a polymer plastic nose cap. So this nose cap, as with the Monad, presents the profile of an FMG round and thus feeds well through the action. A small hole down the centre of the bullet vents gases upon ignition, and the cap blasts off before the bullet leaves the case, and being asymmetrical spins off and falls to the ground. And then without this cap, the bullet has an aggressive hollow point which tends to expand quite reliably. The Germans consider BAT conforms to the Geneva/Hague Conventions. Hollow point ammunition is illegal in Germany, even for the police, but BAT is permitted. So if you live in a jurisdiction where hollow points are forbidden, such as New Jersey, maybe BAT would be legal. However, check on local laws. Don't be the guinea pig. The BAT copper bullet weighs 86 grains and goes at 1400 feet a second from a 4-inch barrel. It does tend to shoot to different points of aim in different weapons. It does tend to work. That's its main selling point. Now, inspired by the plastic nose cap and the copper bullet of the BAT and the shock generating potential of the THV, Andre and Ivan set out to create a totally new round specifically for close range defensive combat. What they came up with was the Eliminator. On first sight, it appears to be a conventional FMJ with a red tip. Looking closer, you notice that the red tip is plastic. If you prise the cap off, you see that the bullet resembles a wad cutter, but with a distinct cutting rim, concave dish and a central projecting button. This complex shape was arrived at after lengthy calculation and trial. Like the THV, it produces shock waves. Unlike the THV, it expands. Like the bat, it is made of copper. Unlike the bat, it is nickel plated to prevent barrel fouling. In 9mm, the 78 grain bullet matches the 1400 feet per second of the bat. It will not penetrate a level 2A Kevlar vest. And like THV and bat, the eliminator usually stays in the torso, so over penetration is not a concern. This is of special interest to VIP close protection teams who envisage ammo going through the bad guy and hitting the VIP. Not a good way to earn your Rolex. That plastic nose cap assists feeding through auto actions or into a revolver chambers from a speed loader. Originally, the eliminator nose cap performed like the bat. They exited the bore and spun off. This could be a problem. Now, one American law enforcement agency tested the bat, and they wanted a round for hostage rescue. And what they noticed was they were chronographing it, and the chronograph had screens made of linoleum. And they noticed that that plastic cap would spin off and penetrate the linoleum, and they were worried that in shooting the bad guy, it's possible to blind the hostage. So that round wasn't adopted. But the eliminator cap, the current eliminator cap, disintegrates completely about 12 inches from the muzzle. So that solves that particular problem. There can't be many ammo manufacturers and designers who've used their products for real-life defence. Ivan Mansour, who was a police reservist, was in a confrontation with two armed robbers. After taking an AK round, Ivan returned fire and cancelled the two bad guys. One was hit between the eyes and both temples blew out. Talking with various police officers, bodyguards and civilian shooters, the word is that Eliminator works. It feeds in all types of pistols, and it does the job if you do yours, and you can ask no more of a bullet. And the picture here is from an issue round from the Metro Police in the Joburg area, who it's their duty round, and they're very happy with it. Unfortunately, Ivan was killed by criminals in an ambush. Now, the details are somewhat murky, but he was a whistleblower about corruption in the export of ammunition. And South Africa, since '94, is a quagmire of corruption. And there's a lot of speculation in the newspapers that it was a hit. He was well, obviously it was. He was targeted, and he did return fire and wound at least one of his attackers, but there was very little in the way of police follow-up, and the whole case is sordid. I knew Ivan fairly well. We used to buy our bodyguard course ammo from him. We used to go to his house, met his family and his Rottweiler and Doberman, and he was a very interesting chap, and I was really sad to hear that he'd been murdered. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of some of the special purpose ammo that was available in South Africa in a certain time and place. Now, I find the subject interesting. I've always been willing to chat about ammo types and discuss it with people who are well versed in the subject. I always wanted to learn about it. But my conclusion is that special purpose ammo, and all those types I've discussed are special purpose, all do one thing particularly well and fail to do other things at all. And Sod's Law will say that in a confrontation, the quality that you most need will be the one that the special purpose ammo doesn't produce. So I would strongly advise, for self-protection or for duty use, carrying general purpose ammunition produced by the major manufacturers with the reliability and quality control standards, which, although maybe not having the sensational aspects of THV or Glaser, does do the job over a much wider variety of problems and scenario situations. So that's my recommendation. Also, excuse me, this ammunition does tend to be expensive, and one of the things that we always say is you should train with the ammo. I'm going to address the subject of stopping power in a future video, so I'll say no more about it at this stage. But as I say, it's a subject that's interested me for quite a while. There's a lot of nonsense talked, but there's also a lot of wisdom out there by people who really do know what they're talking about. So South Africa, really the crime is through the roof. Unfortunately, the ability to protect yourselves with firearms is diminishing. The police or the government, the NC government, trying to disarm everyone, and things are not looking so good over there.